Seated. Jesus and his disciples have just finished the Last Supper that they would share together. Judas has left the room as quickly as a flash of lightning brightening the dark sky. Everyone's feet are clean, and Jesus' hands are still wrinkled from all the foot washing he has done. And as they sit in the darkness and quiet of the evening, Jesus begins to talk. Don't let your hearts be troubled. Believe in God. Believe also in me. In my Father's house there are many rooms. If it were not so, would I have told you that I go ahead to prepare a place for you? And when I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and take you to myself, so that where I am, you may be also. For 4 whole chapters of John's Gospel, Jesus goes on and on and on like this, giving his disciples the instructions for how to live in his absence. Biblical scholars call these 3 chapters of John Jesus' farewell discourse. Well, where are you going? They ask. When are you coming back? Jesus answers their questions, telling them everything they need to know, but giving them answers that won't frighten them, but assure them that in his absence, everything will be okay. I'm leaving you in charge, but don't worry. Don't be afraid. I'll be back in a little while, he tells them. Well, some of them did see Jesus, in a little while after the resurrection, but some of them did not. So a little while becomes a long while, and a long while becomes a lifetime, and then 10 years turns into 100 years, that turns into 1,000 years. And today it has been so long that we wonder if we've been left alone for good, orphaned. What are we supposed to do as we await his return? When I was growing up, I was always the babysitter for my sister Verone, who is 6 years younger than me. Once I reached about 11 or 12, my parents would leave me in charge when they went out for the evening. Before they left, Mom would sit me down, kind of go through all of the rules. Don't answer the door. Call Mrs. Petranek, our next door neighbor, if there's any problems. No phone calls, no friends over, no fighting with your sister. TV dinners are in the freezer. My dad would remind me that, they're counting on me, trusting me to be responsible for my sister. And then we'd all walk to the front door and everyone would kiss and say goodbye. And as soon as that door closed behind my parents, there was a new world order. I was in charge. Turning around to face my new responsibilities, I can still see my sister's face wearing something between hope and terror. I'm sure she would rather have had Mom prepare dinner, Dad tuck her into bed, but that was no longer possible. It was up to me. Truth be told, honestly, nothing ever exciting happened. We would play a couple rounds of Candyland, and I'd read her favorite stories and, warm those TV dinners, so healthy as they were, and then let her stay up just a little bit later so that we could finish a whole episode of Little House on the Prairie. By bedtime, however, those anxieties about being home alone with me begin to surface. Where are Mom and Dad? When are they going to be back? Why haven't they called to check on us? What if something happens to them? Of course, I wouldn't tell my sister. In some ways, I'm actually asking the same questions. How could I be certain that my parents, won't be in a terrible car accident and never walk through that door again? It's possible, and I couldn't give in to those fears because I was the one in charge. I knew better. My parents were counting on me to calm my sister's fears and to make sure that she was well taken care of in their absence. Don't worry about it. Mom and Dad will be home. They'll come in and give you a goodnight kiss as soon as they walk in. So see you tomorrow. And if you even think about getting out of that bed, I'm telling Mom and Dad, you'll be grounded for sure. I suspect that most of us can relate to some kind of memory like this. Not only because, maybe you've been babysitters, but because you are a Christian. After all, you and I are God's elder children in this world, the ones that Christ has left in charge. We modern-day disciples are the responsible ones, the ones Christ trusts to carry on in his name. He has given the world into our care, and he needs us now more than ever before. By virtue of Jesus' departure, we are the way. We are the life. We are the truth of Christ. We Christians embody Jesus, and we're called to be the caretakers of the gospel in this frightened world. And what is the basic sort of house rule that Christ asks us to abide by as we care for his world in his physical absence? Love one another as I have loved you, he says. It's not in the heated arguments about orthodoxy or in the depths of weighty theological discussions that we're known as the way, the truth, and the life, but in the way we treat each other. The way of Christ, the truth of Christ, the life of Christ is conveyed most powerfully in the love of Christ. That love we share with those whom God has entrusted into our care. The endless bickering and backbiting and badgering and bullying on all sides of every issue that keeps Christians separated and divided and fighting amongst each other like cats and dogs is abhorrent to Jesus Christ. Our witness to Christ's love gets lost when we keep breaking that basic rule of love that we have been asked to follow. A telling illustration of this assertion that Christians are Christ in the world is a story told by Mike Gold in his book titled A Jew Without Knowing It. One of his unforgettable accounts of a childhood experience in New York City describes a day when Gold wandered outside of his Jewish ghetto. His mother repeatedly warned him about never venturing any further than 4 streets over. But she never explained why. That he was Jewish and the wrong kind of person that people outside of that neighborhood did not want around. Outside of his ghetto, Gold ran into a group of older boys. They immediately descend upon him and ask, "Hey kid, are you a kike?" Gold, terrified, replies, "I don't know." He had never heard the word before. Getting closer in his face, the older boys asked him, "Boy, are you a Christ killer?" Gold was speechless. And then he faintly replied, "I don't know." He had not heard of that either. The game of boys then asked him where he lived. And as he had been trained to memorize his address, Gold told them, So you are a kike," they shouted. "You are a Christ killer." And the gang jumped the boy and beat him up and told him never to come back into Christian territory again. And so the traumatized little boy goes home. When he walked through the door, his mother gasps, "What happened to you, Mike?" The little boy only replied, "I don't know." "Who did this to you, Mike?" his mother insisted, but again he answered, "I don't know." So as his mother finished washing the blood from his face, she soothed him, the rocker, and Gold recalled in his book of this memory that it was at this point that he raised up from his mother's lap and he whispered in his ear, "Mama, who's Christ?" Mike Gold died in 1967 in obscurity and poverty. His last meals were eaten in a Roman Catholic charity house run by Dorothy Day, that great Roman Catholic activist and humanitarian. She once said of Mike, "Mike Gold eats every day at the table of Christ, but he will never accept him because of the first day he heard his name." What is the picture of Christ that we present to our children, to a watching world, to our neighbors and our colleagues? Do they see a gentle, forgiving, compassionate Jesus who even loved those who hated him? Do they see love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control? Do they see those in you and me who wear this banner of Christ across our hearts? Do you see hands and hearts reaching out across borders and barriers to embrace a world of diverse and glorious beauty that's been made in the image of God Himself? Christ has left us to watch His house. And like my parents who trusted me to be the hands and the head and the heart when I was left to care for my little sister, Jesus is entrusting us, you and me, to be His hands and His head and His heart in caring for our brothers and sisters in this whole wide world. And all they want to know is God's love. Does God love me? And whether we like it or not, the answer to their questions is in the form of you and me. You and I. We're Christ in this world. What do you think others see in us? Amen.